Hello and welcome. This is Diana from thisisdiana.com. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here spending this precious time with me as I discuss the concept of sleep and dreams, specifically your sleep sweet spot, which is something I've been working on for quite some time, actually for years, but now officially pretty much full time with my interior design work. And it's all about finding the individual place and time and energy to get the most restorative sleep possible. And that's because we have a huge, huge problem in the world and in society, and that is extreme sleep deprivation and tons of sleep disorders and the lack of taking this basic necessity seriously. So I thought, it's about time. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and a lot of people have been thrown into a situation where they have to confront sleep without their alarm clocks the way they're used to having it. The world has completely given us all a wake-up call for those who are willing to hear it and see it and feel it. And sleep is just one of the things that it's manifesting itself as a wake-up call. And it has so many implications, not only for our health, general physical health, but for our emotional health and for our spiritual health. And I decided I've got to, work on this because you may or may not know this, but when I wrote my book, Oddball, A Memoir on Resilience, I talked about my crazy, ridiculous sleep schedule. And I could never really pin it down because it wasn't really on the books until very recently, where they started really archiving and documenting and researching all kinds of sleep conditions and disorders. And one of the ones that it has come into the view lately is called cited non-24. Some people just call it non-24 because your biological circadian rhythm is a little bit out of sync with the regular 24-hour day on Earth. So it's a little bit ahead. And they thought that it was just non-sighted individuals, blind people that had it. And pharmaceuticals did a huge campaign specifically for blind people. So everybody, now thinks, so if you bring it up, and if they do know about non-24, they'll think, well, isn't that for blind people? And it's actually for blind people and also sighted people. Turns out that the sleep condition is considered a rare condition, but it's not as rare as a lot of researchers thought. And that's because more and more people are discussing it. And it's not just in research laboratories, and it's not just the experts, it's everyday conversation. So it's not as rare as people thought. So and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about, all kinds of disorders and conditions, not just the one I have, but the sleep deprivation in general, the fact that we as a society are just not taking this precious necessity as seriously as we should and we could. There are no excuses, but you can hear as many 1,000 excuses for why people don't or can't sleep. And that's what I'm here to discuss in a very open way. I get a lot of questions about sleep all the time. Some are really, really good questions that the whole world should be listening to and pondering. Some are silly questions. They really are silly questions, and you can tell that it's a young person asking it. And that there are some questions that I would say the average person really wants to know, and we don't know. A lot of us didn't know or don't know the history of sleep. We just know we sleep. That's all. We sleep at night, but we don't all sleep at night, and we don't all sleep well, and we don't all sleep enough. And we don't all remember our dreams. And I want to educate us all on this because I just feel that we would have a much happier world and society if we were well rested and restored. And as somebody who does have chronic pain and injuries, I can tell you that it's very difficult to find your sweet sleep spot when you are in pain. But there are ways of getting around it. There are ways of working with your body and designing a space and a time for you to find the best sleep you can find for you until you do the full healing and while you're doing your full healing. And hopefully that's the trajectory where we're all heading, specifically you listening to this, specifically you, if this has drawn you to me. So I decided to work on the Sleep Sweet Spot. It's a project. It's a written project. It's a podcast project. It's a blog post project. It's a YouTube project. It's a way for me sharing information that I know about sleep and dreams. And I've done a tremendous amount of research again because I needed to know why I had this weird sleep schedule. I mean, I told you 9/24, and don't worry, I'll tell you exactly what it is, and we all kinds of specific shows on that, and being nocturnal, being a shift worker, sleep apnea, you name it. We'll get to it. Not necessarily today, but we will, and I will mention it. There's time. There's plenty of time to talk about it. So, but the whole point is that I wanted to discuss this and share it, and for us to teach, learn, teach each other, and just sleep better. So let's get started, and let me tell you a little bit about Sleep Sweet Spot. I hope you're taking a deep, delicious breath wherever you are, and that you are in a relaxed place and state, and ready to hear about sleep. I'm ready to share it with you. First of all, please know that you probably are guessing that sleep is not something optional. It is something that every human and animal on this planet needs to function, and to function at our best, at our healthiest, and our most balanced. And we're just humans today, in the era of technology, in the era of global movement, and thinking that we're so superior. We're just not taking it seriously. And I blame that all on the Industrial Revolution and technology, and just being egotistical humans, where we just, put the system and making money and churning the machine before the existence and the health of living beings. So that's taken a big detrimental hit on humanity. We are feeling it. We're feeling it big time. As a matter of fact, now that we're in the middle of this global pandemic, and I hope that we're not forever and too much longer, but that we are, people are really starting to have really odd sleep experiences. Again, they don't have their alarm clocks, or a lot of people don't have their alarm clocks, or their traditional schedule, the traditional way they were working, or the traditional way they were living, whether they were working traditional jobs or not, whether they're disabled or abled, or, at home or moving around. Your whole life has been turned upside down, inside out by the pandemic, and sleep is one of the things that has shown us how much it's been affecting us. Because again, people are just freaking out. They're like, oh, my whole schedule is messed up. Well, I'm guessing that your schedule was probably working not at optimal even before this pandemic, because you probably weren't getting enough sleep. We were already chronically and drastically and acutely sleep deprived. I mean, that was a fact. So it was just a matter of now the symptoms showing up. And this pandemic just so happens, and the fact that we are able to communicate globally through technology and through devices has made it possible for us to communicate and get a little bit more information. It's not just the research labs or the medical industry or the pharmaceuticals, but it's all of us hearing it and seeing it and feeling it. So now we can have a more reliable conversation and communication about what sleep is. I mean, the most important thing and the biggest contribution that I want to make into this sleep world is to really let everybody know that your sleep needs are really unique. They're not like anybody else's. They're as unique as your DNA. Your sleep partner, if you have one, has sleep differences. Your neighbor, your parents, me compared to, this one and the other. We all have sleep needs that are different. Not everybody is able to sleep the same hours and in the same way. And I want to address that because it's important for you to find your specific sleep sweet spot, the way that you can sleep the most to have the most restoration. Because lack of sleep or poor sleep or sleep conditions and sleep disorders are not in their own separate world. They are entrenched and connected to every part of our lives. People have accidents. People have other health issues. People have mood issues, depression and anger, because they're tired, they're exhausted, they're fatigued. People can also have all kinds of diseases, diabetes, cancer, heart, you name it, people can have it. And sometimes you can ask, well, what's the chicken and what's the egg? Could it be the other thing that's causing the sleep problem? For example, if you have fibromyalgia, is that what's causing the sleep problem, or is the sleep problem causing the condition? And the thing is, it depends, and we don't know. And this is what we're here to find out. So I am going to give you a couple of different things that you can find on my website, written if you prefer to read it, at thisisdiana.com. Just go, it sounds just like that, and also you can see it in this podcast. Simple, thisisdiana.com. But I just want people to know these few points, and these are some of the things that I'm going to be discussing, and a lot more, but these are the basics. And like I mentioned before, it's going to be about the people that are suffering needlessly from some type of sleep deprivation. There are so many of them in the world that we just don't know. It's not just what statistics are telling us, because again, people are self-reporting, or just people that go to the sleep clinics, or just people that are telling the doctors. But there are many people suffering privately, or to themselves, or within their family, or within their own bubble. So you're not going to know. None of us will know. But I can tell you, there are many, many people suffering from some type of sleep deprivation. Okay? We have missing, false, wrong information about sleep, what sleep is, what a sleep routine is that works, that is effective, what's really effective, versus what all the things are saying out there, repetitive voices in every blog, magazine, and clinic paper, it's all saying the same thing, and yet here we are, getting worse. So let's take what works, and you're going to hear me say that a few times. Let's discard what doesn't work, and let's add what's missing. Okay? We didn't always sleep the way we do now. I mean, somebody who is a history buff or anthropologist or ethnographer might know this, even a layperson who's aware of our history, that the way we conceptualize sleep, and the way if we sleep on the floor, we sleep on a cot, if we sleep, with accoutrements like, with materials like sheets and pillows, it wasn't always like that. If we slept alone, if we slept in groups, if we slept unclothed, nude or not, that's all changed throughout history. The times we slept changed. It's incredible. And the way we're sleeping now, we need some type of mainstream order because everybody's a mess. Nobody knows what to do. That's one of the most common questions I have. Is it wrong to do this? Is it right to do this? And the question is, it depends on what it is you're talking about, and it depends on what works for you. So we're talking about, again, sleep schedule, or sleeping, to the left, or sleeping on your back, or using a pillow or not, or taking a supplement, or taking medication, or, skipping sleep for 24 hours. All these things that have to be taken into consideration. And it's crucial. It's crucial for you to find this sleep sweet spot, because it balances, proper sleep balances every single physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual function in our body. There is no exception. Even if you believe in the spirit, that's okay. I'm telling you. There's a whole world of dream and soul travel and function of sleep that I'm also going to discuss. That we're not just going to stay with the biology and the science. We're going to go to the metaphysics as well, because we need the big picture. And you can describe what doesn't work for you, what doesn't make sense, and what doesn't resonate. That's why it's called free will. And as I said earlier, one of the other things I really am going to go crazy talking about is that not everybody sleeps at night. Not everybody has the same sleep schedule. Not everybody can sleep 7 or 8 hours every night or every day. People have different needs, and they always have. It's not just the pandemic. It's not just your job. It's not just, it's your biology. It's, years until the beginning of time where our cultures were different, where you needed people at night to watch over the tribe or the community, to watch over predators and enemies, night watchers, or the creatives who were always up at night pondering the stars and needed that isolation, the creativity. So there were always night people, there were always nocturnal people, there were always diurnal people, that's day people, and there are always people in between. I'm one of those in between, those non-24 people that goes from day to night to night to day to midday, and there are many people like that as well. And it's time that we stop demonizing it and making it into a disease and a disorder. It's time for us to work with it instead of against it, and stop making people feel bad because they're not 9-to-5 risers, because the world is going to change. Whether you like it or not, that's not going to work. It's not going to work for everyone. It never did and never will. And for those who say, well, I don't see what the importance of sleep is. That's just, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Well, don't worry. You're going to get there soon enough because lack of sleep, sometimes you can't make it up. It's called sleep deficit. You can't just make it up in the quote unquote weekends or, 2 days later. The detriment of sleep deficit, it's a serious business. It's dangerous. It's just not healthy. And it's one of those things that people really need to think about what they're saying, and they actually might get their wish. And not everybody has and uses a bedroom the same way. That's another one of those sleep habit things you're going to see everywhere. Even I have tons of them. As when I got my certification or when I did my research as a sleep science coach, I saw all kinds of things, and I'm like, well, how can I share this with my clients and my audience if I don't believe in this particular, advice? For example, that the bedroom should only be used for sleeping. It's not possible. It's not ideal. And it's not even necessary. There are things you can do, the routine of rituals to get to your sweet spot. That's what it's all about. So the term like sleep hygiene, like if you're going into some, white space with, like gloves and scrubs, it's just something we need to get rid of because it's not really working. It never did. And people start feeling guilty and bad and like failures because they can't get into that sleep habit that so many researchers and sleep specialists and experts are telling them to do, because it's not going to work for everybody. And for those that it does work for, good for them. If it works for them, there are always going to be people that can go with that routine. But there's too many of us that doesn't work for us. And we're miserable in many, many ways. So that's one of the things. The other things we need to sleep, again, that more deeper restorative and longer sleep for many of us. I sleep a long time, so that wouldn't be me, but most people don't sleep enough. And get back to our dream world and our dream work. And for those who don't remember your dreams, we'll talk about that too. For those who don't believe they dream, that's okay. You do, or you would be dead. Every single living being, including our cats and dogs and everything, they have their dream states. It's biological. Things are happening during our dream state that we're going to talk about in the future. And we need to get back to that deeper dream state and the deep sleep that we don't remember dreaming, or dreaming doesn't occur. All of those stages and phases of sleep are important. That they're there for a reason. You can't really negotiate it and choose which one you want, which one you don't. And by cutting your sleep short, you're doing that. And one way or the other, you're going to feel the consequences of that. And they're not good consequences. They're unhealthy consequences. Okay? So we're ignoring the spiritual components. The spiritual components of sleep are in the dream realm. And we're just thinking that it's just nonsense and noise. We need to see that from a different perspective, because whether you believe in spiritual issues or not, there is a function of dreams, or we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't be having them, and we would have been having them to the degree that we're having them, which is, interesting, fantastical, and lucid at times, and realistic, and just they have answers, and we need to start looking at those answers. And very importantly, like I'm told you a little earlier, when I get some of these questions, a lot of people want to know, is it bad to do this? Can I do that? Should I do this? And a lot of times people are looking for shortcuts or tricks or little, hacks that you can't really do with sleep. You can't go around, you can't go around the bush when it comes to sleep. You have to, it has to go through your phases in order for it to be restorative and healthy. And you could do it, and you're going to have unsatisfactory sleep. It's not going to be restful. It's not going to be deep. It's not going to be healing. You're not going to be able to rejuvenate because you're not giving yourself the time for it to go through its phases. And it's not about doing what you're doing wrong or right. This is not a judgment. We've been judged too long. People have judged other people for everything, but specifically, we're talking about sleep. They've shamed people because they don't sleep enough, because they sleep at night, because they're exhausted, because they're fatigued. They make people feel bad. Like, you're a bad person because you're exhausted and you're fatigued and you need sleep. I don't know where that came from. What are we doing? What are we toiling for? Who set that emotion? What set that emotion? For how long? And for whose benefit? It's mostly not us, right? So shame, out. Pride, doesn't really fit here either. It's about health and balance and just feeling healthy to grow and develop and heal. If you only knew how important sleep was for healing, you'd be sleeping more. That's for sure. So there's so much more that to discuss. When I started working on this, I actually became overwhelmed, and I said, well, how am I going to do this? What am I going to talk about? Where do I start? And the truth is, you start at the beginning, and we just talk about what sleep is, what its function is. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it in the podcast. We're going to talk about it in blogs. I want you to ask questions if you need to ask me. I get tons of questions, and I'm going to do a Q&A on the regular basis, even if it's on blog posts, because people really do have fascinating, interesting questions that we all, ought to consider pondering. So I hope that this has made sense to you, and that you have a better idea of what your sweet sleep spot is. Okay? It is a sleep routine, a ritual, space design, and schedule customized for each individual to provide you with the best, most restorative sleep, optimal restoration, balance, vital energy. If you want energy to be functional and productive and alive, then we just need to balance our sleep to work with your unique sleep schedule and cycle. Know what it is and work with it. And understand how your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual needs are all connected to sleep. How your environment, technological advances are interconnection with the world globally. Things like the pandemic, like illnesses and earth disasters and poverty and wealth and economics and politics are all affecting our sleep, and how you can take control, your sovereignty as a human with choice, and create your own sleep sweet spot. So as I sit here and I talk to you about how excited I am to enter this challenge, no matter how overwhelming it might seem, I hope that you will join with me. I hope that you find sleep as important and dreams as necessary as it really is, and that you want to discuss it, and you want to engage in it, and you want to contribute it, and you want to find your own delicious sleep sweet spot, because it's there waiting for you to find it. So again, if you want to find out a little bit more about what it is I'm doing, everything's on the website, and specifically in the info center. All the blogs are there. And if you want to book coaching, you can do that as well on the website. Just go to the booking link. You can see it there, and we can talk, and we can do an assessment, and we can take it from there. And so many other things if you have questions. So again, this is Diana.com, just like it sounds. And I'm going to leave it there and let you think about this and rehear this if you need to, and find your own sweet sleep spot. Until next time, Again, thank you for joining me, and sweet slumber to you wherever and whenever you do so.